My breath caught in my throat as I opened the door. There stood my ex-husband Ellis, as infuriatingly handsome as ever, and next to him his imposingly stern mother, Lorraine. "What the hell are you doing here?" I demanded, blocking their entry. Ellis flashed his signature dazzling smile. "Aren't you going to invite us in, Bryn?" I crossed my arms. "Absolutely not. How did you even know where I lived?" Lorraine huffed indignantly. "We asked your sister, though I can't fathom why she'd tell us after how dreadful you treated our Ellis." My jaw dropped in disbelief. The audacity! I straightened my back and met Lorraine's glare. "You have 10 seconds to explain yourselves before I call security." "Bryn, dear, no need for threats," Ellis interjected gently. "We merely want to discuss our living arrangements now that the unnecessary hostility from our split has faded." "Living arrangements? Is he serious?" He stood there perfectly poised in his designer suit, as if this were a business deal. I almost laughed at the sheer lunacy. "Ellis, if you think for 1 second that I'd ever allow you back into my life—" "We understand you're still emotional," Lorraine interrupted, "which is why Ellis and I have decided I will move in as well temporarily to ease the transition." Transition? Now I knew they'd lost their minds. I stepped forward, backing them towards the elevator. "Let me make this crystal clear. There is nothing to transition back to. We are divorced." Ellis's smile faded, his voice taking on a hint of steel. "Don't be rash, Bryn. You may regret it." "A warning? From him?" My temper flared. "The only thing I regret is wasting years married to you. Now get out before I call security and the police." I jabbed angrily at the elevator button. The doors slid open and I motioned brusquely for them to leave. Ellis hesitated, then stepped in, Lorraine close behind. As the doors began closing, Ellis called out, "Remember, Bryn, you forced my hand." I caught my breath, pulse racing. Forced his hand? The veiled threat hung in the air. I had no doubt Ellis was ruthless enough to follow through if I didn't act first. I strode rapidly back into my condo, locking the door. I wouldn't put it past them to try to re-enter while I was distracted. I poured myself a shaking glass of wine, equal parts furious and unnerved. So this was Ellis's endgame. He likely assumed the divorce left me broken, expecting me to cave to his demands. He always did underestimate me. I downed the wine in one long swallow. Well, not this time. If it was a war Ellis wanted, then it was war he would get. And I refused to lose. I downed my second glass of wine, still reeling from the morning's confrontation. Ellis's parting words haunted me. Forced his hand? What exactly was he planning? My phone buzzed. It was a text from Lorraine. "We need to discuss this further. Expect us at 7 p.m. "The hell you will," I shouted at the phone. I fired off a reply. "Do not come here or I will call the police. This is harassment." Her response was swift. "Don't be dramatic. We just want to talk." "You owe it to Ellis after everything you put him through." I threw the phone down in disgust. Everything I put him through? The years of subtle neglect, the selfishness, the cavalier infidelity, that was all on him, and his viper of a mother encouraging it every step of the way. No, this little visit was the last straw. I wouldn't sit back and let them bulldoze over me anymore. If Ellis wanted war, I would bring it right to his doorstep. I began gathering every sordid detail I could on Ellis. I called old friends, colleagues, anyone who I thought might have dirt on him, and dirt I got. Ellis's law partners hinted at shady financial dealings. Old flames alluded to affairs. I even learned of recent harassment allegations from his young, attractive assistant, Jenna. My anger burned hotter with each new discovery. Not only was Ellis a cheating snake, but a ruthless, corrupt one at that. By 5 p.m., I had compiled a stockpile of incriminating evidence. My phone buzzed again. My mouth twisted in disgust seeing it was another message from Lorraine. "We'll be there at 7 whether you like it or not. I have already made up the guest room for Ellis. My son deserves to be comfortable." Comfortable? I would make sure he and his despicable mother were anything but. At 6:55 p.m. sharp, I headed down to the lobby, a satisfied smile on my face. Right on cue, the elevator doors slid open. Lorraine strode out first, her pinched face set in a haughty sneer. Ellis slunk behind, his eyes widening when he saw me waiting for them. Before either could speak, I held up a hand. "I have had quite enough of this little charade. If you try and harass me again, I'll make sure you regret it." I locked eyes with Ellis. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." His cocky grin faltered. I pressed my advantage and stepped forward, glaring menacingly. I promise you, keep this up, and I'll bring your entire world crashing down. My voice shook with rage. Without waiting for a reply, I turned on my heels and left them gaping speechlessly. I had declared my war in no uncertain terms. I almost pitied Ellis. He had poked a sleeping dragon, and my fury was just beginning to wake. I arrived at my lawyer's office, files in hand, ready to launch the opening salvos of my war against Ellis. His threat still rang in my ears, fueling my determination. If he thought I would just stand by, he was dead wrong. "Bryn, always a pleasure," greeted Jacob, my seasoned attorney. We exchanged quick pleasantries before I eagerly presented my findings. I wanted to wipe that smug grin off Ellis's face permanently. "This is quite an impressive dossier," Jacob remarked, pages spread across his desk. "Extensive evidence of financial malfeasance, sexual harassment allegations." He peered up, eyebrow raised. "Do you intend to pursue legal action?" "Absolutely. I want to hit Ellis where it hurts, his money and his beloved career." My voice dripped with contempt. "I'll bleed him dry if I have to." Jacob clasped his hands, eyeing me seriously. An aggressive approach, but not unwarranted given the circumstances. He detailed a crushing lawsuit targeting Ellis's assets and law license. My pulse quickened as he described levying accusation after accusation, toppling the empire Ellis had built on lies. I left Jacob's office charged with predatory purpose. The battlefield was set, and I would emerge victorious, no matter the cost. Ellis had awoken the beast inside me, and I would have my revenge. That evening I received a series of desperate texts from Ellis. "We need to talk. Lorraine is frantic. She invested her life savings in my latest development project, and now the funding has collapsed. We're facing financial ruin if I can't access additional capital right away. Please, I'm begging you." I stared coldly at his groveling messages. Ruin? He didn't know the meaning of the word. But he would soon enough. "Bryn, please, Lorraine refuses to speak to me. You know how she gets. I swear I'll pay you back once this deal gets back on track." Sneering, I began typing a response when my phone suddenly rang. It was Ellis, likely calling to pathetically plead his case further. "What?" I answered sharply. "Bryn, thank God," Ellis's voice wavered desperately. "I know things ended badly between us, but you must help me." Must help him? I almost laughed at his audacity. In the background, I could hear Lorraine's shrill voice. "If you can't fix this, Ellis, you're no son of mine." I'd heard enough. "Ellis, our relationship died the second you betrayed our marriage vows the first time. I want nothing more to do with you or that harpy you call a mother." The line went silent except for Lorraine's strangled gasps. "Good, let them drown in panic." "Please, Bryn," Ellis implored weakly. "I'll tell you exactly what you can do, Ellis," I interrupted. "You can sign these divorce papers and terminate all contact. Maybe then I'll consider not ruining what's left of your career." Checkmate. The battle lines were drawn and my artillery was locked on target, now to fire at will. The silence on the line felt endless as I awaited Ellis's response. Finally, in a broken whisper, I heard him utter, "As you wish, I will sign the papers." His defeated words were sweet satisfaction. I promptly received the signed divorce decree, granting me a clean break along with a substantial settlement befitting my suffering. As an added bonus, Ellis included a sworn affidavit confessing to multiple infidelities. My lips curled maliciously reading his written admission of guilt. It would come in useful later to annihilate any remaining sympathy for him. I decided to also pursue action against his law license. Just because I had won my freedom didn't mean Ellis deserved to walk away unscathed. His beloved career would be the next casualty in my war against him. Over the following weeks, Jacob and I meticulously prepared complaint letters to the State Ethics Committee documenting Ellis's confessed adultery and chronicling accounts of his shady financial dealings. "This will undoubtedly trigger an official investigation based on the severity of accusations," Jacob commented as we finalized the exhaustive records. "It won't be pleasant for him. These committees rarely show mercy, especially with the hard evidence we're providing." Good, I thought, coldly. Let him be raked over the coals. He didn't deserve mercy or even basic compassion after what he did to me. Soon after submitting the complaints, I received satisfying updates of their swift and devastating impact. Ellis was placed under immediate review at his firm and barred from taking on new clients amidst the swirling accusations. Lorraine also kept involuntarily involving herself, as I knew she would. She left me endless raging voicemails when the ethics investigation was announced, blaming me for trying to destroy Ellis over nothing. Destroy him? Oh, I was just getting started. Her shrill accusations only strengthened my resolve. When Lorraine finally had the nerve to show up pounding at my door, I quickly put her in her place. "This is all your fault, you deceitful bitch," she screamed when I opened the door. Before she could spit anything else, I stepped forward and struck her sharply across the face. She staggered backwards in shock, eyes filling with tears. "Get the hell out, and if you ever come here again, the next slap will draw blood." I spat vehemently, slamming the door on her stunned face. Immediately, I filed for restraining orders against the both of them. I wanted the protection of the law to cement my separation from their toxicity. In the following weeks, every update Jacob sent regarding Ellis's deteriorating reputation and mounting legal troubles filled me with fierce satisfaction. With each judgment against him, with each damning headline, I could practically hear the foundations of his world cracking and crumbling. Good riddance. He was finally getting what he deserved. As I stood on my balcony overlooking the dazzling cityscape, I raised my wine glass in celebration. The view now perfectly symbolized my hard-won victory, rising high above the ruins of Ellis and Lorraine, exactly where I belonged. The sharp clack of high heels in my marble foyer pulled my eyes from the jaw-dropping view. I turned with a scowl, assuming it was Lorraine again attempting to barge in despite strict security protocol. But my glare transformed instantly to shock when instead I saw Ellis's young assistant Jenna striding towards me, fiery determination in her eyes. My surprise quickly shifted to anger. "How the hell did you get in here?" I demanded. She waved a keycard dismissively. "I have my methods, but that's not important." "Breaking into my home sure seems pretty damn important," I retorted. Ignoring me, Jenna declared, "I'm here to discuss Ellis." That got my attention. I crossed my arms skeptically. She took a breath. "You should know, Ellis and I are seeing each other. Have been for a while, actually." Seeing each other? Why wasn't I surprised? Ellis always did have a penchant for screwing young subordinates. First his pathetic associate at his old firm and now his new assistant. Despicable but almost impressive in the sheer audacity. I raised an eyebrow. So the harassment claims against him were what? Foreplay? Jenna flushed angrily. "No, I really was upset with him at first. The way he pursued me was so aggressive and manipulative." Her voice trailed off. Interesting. I wondered what lies Ellis had fed her to get into her pants. Jenna finally met my gaze. "But over time he made me feel so special, like I was the only one who really knew the real him, you know?" I stared at her blankly. Oh, I knew the real Ellis, all right, a selfish, sneaky scumbag. But I bit my tongue, curious where Jenna was going with this sob story. Haltingly, she continued. "The point is, I think I love him, and I want to help fix this situation with you and his mother." Fix this? I almost burst out laughing. There was no fix for what Ellis had done, but Jenna's hopeful eyes stopped my bitter response. "Ellis says if you two could just talk," she trailed off hopefully. Now I did laugh harshly. "Jenna, listen closely. There is nothing on earth that could convince me to willingly speak to Ellis again." I sighed, seeing her face fall. "I know you think you see something special in Ellis, but take it from his ex-wife. That man doesn't have a sincere bone in his body." Jenna's lip quivered. For a moment, I almost pitied her. Clearly Ellis had spun an expert web of lies and empty promises, just as he had with me years ago. Straightening sharply, I opened the door and motioned for her to leave. "Go find someone who treats you with genuine care, Jenna. Ellis isn't capable of that." Her eyes watering, Jenna hurried out without another word. I firmly shut the door behind her. Sighing deeply, I leaned against it for support. Oh yes, Ellis certainly had a type, young, naive, and vulnerable. Well, his new plaything was about to get a brutal life lesson about the true ugliness lying underneath Ellis's polished veneer, a lesson I knew all too well. In the weeks following Jenna's unexpected visit, I immersed myself in work, trying to forget the latest absurd drama. I had just secured a major promotion, validating years of tireless effort. I wouldn't let Ellis undermine all I had achieved. That resolve wavered when I arrived home one evening to find Lorraine lurking yet again outside my building, still somehow evading security. Her piercing voice cut through the night air before I could avoid her. "I hope you're satisfied with yourself," she seethed. "Ellis is at risk of losing everything because of your petty grudge." Petty grudge? I marched up to her menacingly as she continued her tirade against me, jabbing her bony finger in my face. I'd had enough. With one forceful shove, I knocked her back against the brick exterior. She yelped painfully. "If you harass me again, they'll be carting you out of here in a body bag," I growled through gritted teeth. "Stay the hell away from me." I stormed off, leaving Lorraine sputtering furiously. My phone soon buzzed with her incensed texts. "When Ellis finds out about this, it will just further motivate him to destroy you at any cost." Good luck with that, I thought acidly. Though the threat gave me pause, I knew Ellis was ruthless enough to make good if desperate. Over the next week, I learned things had only gotten worse for him professionally. The ethics investigation was in full swing, more sordid details emerging, including confirmation Ellis had pilfered client funds for his failed developments. Partners were fleeing his firm and creditors were hounding him relentlessly. His personal life fared no better. Jenna had moved out abruptly, presumably finally waking up to reality. Ellis was unraveling rapidly. When I arrived at my office one morning, my receptionist's uneasy expression immediately put me on edge. "What's going on, Gwen?" She wrung her hands nervously. "There's someone waiting for you. Jenna. She's extremely upset." "Jenna again? What now?" I hurried to my office to find Jenna sobbing uncontrollably, mascara streaking her inflamed face. "Jenna, what happened?" I asked warily. "It's Ellis," she choked out. "I went by his place to talk, and he was just destroying everything in a drunken rage." She buried her face in her hands as a fresh wave of hysteria overcame her. I sank down beside her and spoke evenly. "Jenna, listen, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time." I recounted my own painful history with Ellis's vindictive anger. Jenna lifted her head slowly, eyes widening with revelation. "Oh my God, Bryn, I am so sorry," she whimpered. "This whole time I thought you were just vengeful, but now I see Ellis clearly for the monster he is." I nodded gravely as she divulged new information on Ellis's violence and manipulation against her, cementing his abusive patterns. As Jenna composed herself, we agreed to coordinate with authorities on appropriate restraining actions. For her sake and mine, Ellis needed to face consequences. The law was about to get its claws in Ellis in more ways than he ever imagined, and I would not relent until he was shredded to pieces. I observed with quiet satisfaction as two uniformed officers firmly led a disheveled and belligerent Ellis down the precinct stairwell in handcuffs. His bellowing denials echoed through the cavernous atrium. Once outside, Ellis collapsed against the cruiser, appearing on the verge of hysterics. Good, I thought coldly, watching the bizarre scene through the station windows. Let him finally experience even a fraction of the torment he had so callously inflicted. I had coordinated closely with Jenna as well as Jacob to pursue immediate legal action against Ellis for assault, abuse, and violations of our restraining orders. The detailed accounts of his violence and manipulation left authorities with little recourse but to arrest him. That gratifying image was just the beginning. Over subsequent weeks, I was regular fixture at the courthouse, bearing witness to the comprehensive dismantling of Ellis's life. The ethics committee convened intense hearings, poring through reams of records I had supplied confirming not just Ellis's adulterous behavior, but willful professional misconduct. Account statements showed substantial sums Ellis had funneled from client estates into his own failed ventures. An open and shut case of embezzlement. I observed silently as Ellis took the stand, clamoring fruitlessly to defend himself. The prosecution interrogated him ruthlessly until he crumbled, admitting defeat. The slimy Ellis I had known had vanished, replaced by a shell of a man, broken and destitute. I couldn't tear my eyes away. The final nail in the coffin came days later. Formal notice of Ellis's disbarment. No more practicing law ever again. As Jacobs reviewed next steps, including potential jail time based on criminal financial charges, I saw years' worth of anguish finally lifting. I had won. Leaving the courthouse, I practically floated down the steps before a shrill cry of despair jarred me. Lorraine. In my satisfaction, I had almost forgotten about her. I watched, curious, as she desperately shoved through the crowd of reporters searching for Ellis. She finally spotted him retreating hastily towards a waiting town car. "Ellis!" Lorraine cried pitifully, chasing after him. "You can't abandon me. I gave up everything for you." Ellis yanked the car door open angrily. "You and your foolish ambitions got me into this mess. I want nothing more to do with you," he spat venomously. The car sped off, leaving Lorraine standing alone, crestfallen. My heart almost went out to her before I swiftly quashed the thought. She deserved this too for enabling Ellis at every turn. I strode straight past Lorraine's hunched form without a word. I had finally excised their poison from my life completely. Glancing back, I saw Lorraine turn slowly, her sunken eyes meeting mine one last time, filled with pain and true understanding of betrayal. I held her gaze indifferently, then shifted away. The hot sun beat down on me as I departed, but I had never felt such lightness. True justice was done. Now to live my life wholly and completely free. Sighing deeply, I sank back into my office chair, basking in the glow of a radiant sunset bathing downtown in golden hues. I glanced contentedly around the spacious corner suite, a visible testament to my professional successes since leaving Ellis's toxicity behind. I had swiftly risen through the executive ranks to spearhead major marketing campaigns that propelled our firm to record profits. Recognition followed, including well-deserved promotions and industry accolades, affirming my strong leadership vision. Gone were the days of simmering resentment and emotional turmoil that had defined my marriage to Ellis. In its place now stood confidence, self-assuredness, and clarity of purpose. I embraced my seat at the table and reveled in hard-won autonomy. The board was even grooming me for an imminent CEO role, acknowledging my instrumental role in recent triumphs. My throat tightened unexpectedly with emotion. God knows Ellis and Lorraine would have ruthlessly exploited my position and earnings for their own selfish agenda, just as ruthlessly as they had our marriage. Now there were no parasitic ties hindering my ascent. I had clawed my way to the top alone on sheer grit and refusal to be defeated. And I was just getting started. A light rap at my door pulled me from my thoughts. I waved my assistant Devon in cheerfully. His amiable competence and organization were indispensable. "Here is the market analysis you requested," he said, handing me a freshly bound presentation. "Also, your guest has arrived downstairs." I smiled broadly, heart quickening. "Excellent. Send him up, please." Moments later, I heard a firm knock. I opened the door to find Ryan standing there, looking striking as ever in a tailored suit, his warm brown eyes crinkling into a smile as he gave me quick kiss. His stable warmth was exactly what I needed after years wedded to Ellis's turbulent chaos. We reconnected by coincidence when Ryan joined the firm's legal team, finding chemistry still lingered from our college days. An easy rapport quickly blossomed into a blossoming relationship on my terms and timing. Ryan was more than willing to accommodate, showing genuine care and respect. No pressure, no suffocation, just unwavering support. I invited Ryan to sit on the plush sectional and popped a celebratory bottle of Dom Perignon I had been saving for this special milestone. I regaled him with the latest positive developments, confidence growing with each effervescent sip. Ryan listened attentively, interjecting words of encouragement and pride in my accomplishments. I realized suddenly I hadn't felt this secure in my entire adult life. Ryan wrapped his arms around me reassuringly, as if reading my thoughts. No, with him I had found an equal partnership, one grounded in trust and healthy boundaries, the very foundation Ellis had torpedoed. Gazing out at the glittering skyline abuzz with possibility, I nestled contentedly into Ryan's sturdy embrace. The sweet taste of triumph filled my mouth, more rich and satisfying than the finest champagne. I had awoken from the nightmare years ago. Now at long last I could bask fully in the dawn of blissful new beginnings.